Hi folks, in this video I wanted to discuss lens buying strategy. Have you ever thought to yourself or asked yourself, what is your strategy? In this day and age of YouTube videos, new lenses coming out all the time, different primes, different zooms, different focal ranges, it's very easy to just buy lenses just because you think you need them rather than buy what you will actually use. If we start off and compare the common crop sensor conundrum, do you go for 35 or do you go for a 50? Now there is a difference between a 35 and a 50, but it's not drastic. You could argue that if you had a 35 and an 85, what you can't cover with an 85 you could cover with a 35 and vice versa. So basically you could really consider the most efficient way to buy lenses is to look at doubling your focal length. So you could go 24, 50, 105, or you could go for an ultra wide 35, 85, 135. Then you have buying lenses that work with each other, that do have a significant difference between one lens and another, rather than just something that's so close the difference is not enough often to justify changing the lens. On a crop sensor camera, which is the most common one, the dilemma is you go for, say, a standard zoom 17 to 50 zoom and then maybe an 80 to 200. The 80 to 200 can often be overkill on a crop sensor camera unless you're outdoors, wildlife, whatever the case may be, because you're talking of an effective focal range of 120 to 300. Personally, I found I really didn't get on with that lens for what I use it for. I don't like really big lenses, so I prefer a prime or a standard zoom plus an 85, which works better for me. But it's worth sitting down and working out what will you use, or even go through your images and look at the most common focal ranges that you use. And you may find that actually if you have a 50 you don't need a 35, or vice versa. So you might consider, for example, if you're going to go the 35, 85, 135 route, then you could have a wide zoom at the wide end. Or you could actually go for a standard zoom 17 to 55, then consider a 105 to go with it. But before you just buy lenses randomly and invest money in lenses that overlap or you won't use, it's actually worth having a strategy and decide, in my opinion, which route works for you. Do you want to go the 24, 50, 105? Do you want to go the ultra wide 35, 85, 135? Then you will actually get the lenses that will work together, they will complement each other, and you won't have lots and lots of lenses that you cart about and in the end you just don't know which one you're going to use. I found myself most of the time, when I had a 35 and a 50 and an 85, I wouldn't bother switching my 35 for the 50 or vice versa. So it's worth having lenses that do complement each other. I like to have my range covered with primes and zooms, certainly at the wider end. So I do have some overlap, because I do have the 35 and the 50 simply because they're so cheap, why not? But if I'm going to take anything out with me, I do work in double focal lengths so that I actually don't have an unnecessary amount of lenses. If you're a working professional and acquiring gear is just something that comes out of your budget that's written off against tax, that's another matter. But I believe for most of us, we are buying what we think we need or what we would like rather than what we would use. So I would urge you to sit down, work out a proper lens strategy, maybe starting with an analysis of the images you've taken over the last 6 months and see where you're at. See what focal lengths you do tend to shoot at, because sometimes we don't realize that. And over time, sometimes things change, sometimes our habits change, sometimes we tend to start being drawn towards a wider lens or a longer lens, depending on what suits you. But if you actually work out a lens strategy, then you won't waste your time chasing lenses that you might not really use just for the sake of it.